We are back analyzing more Mario Kart World music. It's the soundtrack that just keeps on giving. It is so freaking good. I can't remember the last time a game's soundtrack has just been next level in the same way that Mario Kart Worlds is. It's a celebration of all Mario music. There's Mario Kart music in there. There's remixes of Mario Kart stuff. There's Mario 2D games, 3D games, the whole lot. Deep cuts, everything. It's fantastic. Today, we're going to be talking about the underwater theme from the original Super Mario Brothers. We know it. We love it. It sounds like this. But here's the Mario Kart World version. Sax. There we go. There's the classic. Oh! Off the bat, we're just off to such a great start. So far, we're not doing anything too crazy. Listen to these chords, though. It's just spectacular. We're going to muck around with it. We're going to figure out the chords. We're going to see kind of like dive in a little bit to the chords to see what's going on and like how it works and why it sounds so good. So let's talk about the first two chords. We have basically a 1 and a 4. We're in the key of B flat major. But the very first chord is a B flat major. It's a root, but it's not just a straight up B flat major. It is a first inversion, which means we take the third of B flat major, and that's our bass note. Have a listen. And then it just goes to a 4, E flat major 7. If we're going to be more specific with that first chord, it's like a B flat sus2 with a third on the bass. So I suppose in essence it's a B flat major first inversion add 9, which is that cheeky little C in there. And that C, that gives it that like pristine, clean, delicate feel that I freaking love. And right there we get like that E flat major, again with the added 9 and a major 7 in there. Oh God, it's so beautiful. Just listen to those two chords. There we go. Then we land on the like the sequence that plays at the very intro of the very original underwater theme. That but there's crazy, beautiful, jazzy, reharmonized chords in there. So let's just figure that out. So it's kind of like, this is like the dominant chord. This is the 5 of B flat major. This is F. And we get this kind of, this contrary motion resolution to a straight F. And then we get this, oh my God, what is that? That sounds complicated. Hang on. Some kind of F7 second inversion, maybe? It's nearly that, but there's something else going on in there. I want to figure this out. I'm figuring this out as I go. There is no preparation here. I'm just freeballing. There's something in there. There's something kind of spicy in there. That's the chord we end up on. That's the chord I really care about, because listen to that. We talked a bit about tritone substitution in the last video, where you take the dominant chord, fifth, you keep the 7 and the 3rd of that chord, but you take the root and you swap it out for a tritone. So a tritone away from F is a B. You end up with like a B7 kind of thing. The cool thing here is that we add this extra sort of... we kind of turn it up a notch, and instead of just playing like a dominant chord, it's like an augmented kind of chord. It's just one of those chords that just feels like it just extends out forever. I absolutely love it, and it's an amazing way to get from there to B flat major, which is our root. So there's the intro. That's it. The intro is just, it's a stunning little piece. At one point I will figure out whatever that crazy little linking chord is, but I don't want to dwell on it for too long, because this video could be a lot of just me staring at the keyboard and not saying much while I try and figure it out, and that doesn't sound particularly interesting. Anyway, we're going to play that intro, and then we're going to move into the main section. So that much is the same as the original. So that's super straightforward. This mimics the very original underground theme from the original Super Mario Bros. Pretty much exactly. The chords are B flat major, and then we get A major, but we keep that B flat on the bass, which is really cool. So we pedal that B flat. And then we go to a similar kind of thing, but we're landing on the 5 chord. So we're back to F, F7. And again, it's going from F7 to an E7 with an F on the bass. Again, we're pedaling that bass, which is cool. Back up to B flat. But then we add an extra little bit here, a little kind of like, let's hang around on that B flat just before we move to the next bit, because we just want to prepare you for how amazing these next chords are going to be. We're just going to hold on a little bit on this B flat, and we're going to do something kind of cool. So listen to this. Just before we get to the next amazing chords, because this is like the main event, these next bits. But this is cool. We're getting more pedaling. So we've got here B flat major, then it goes to an E flat major, which is the 4 chord, but we keep the B flat on the bass. So again, we're pedaling that B flat. And then we get, it's basically an F major, which is the 5 chord, with that B flat still on the bass. So the root is still sticking true right here while we change these chords. So B flat major, E flat major, F. And there's this really lovely voicing where it's kind of like you're keeping these common tones here, kind of anchoring on the outside, these B flats, and then in the middle of that you can... It's just a nice, I don't know, I like that voicing. It's pleasing to my ears. So just listen to that one more time. And then I'm going to just let the next set of chords play, because I just want to listen to them and appreciate them for how stunning they are. So check it. It's just every now and then, right, a chord sequence will come along and just somehow just dive into the middle of my brain, and it just goes, this is what you want to hear. This is like your DNA of chord sequences right here. This is what we know you want to hear. I freaking love these chords so much. I'm going to try and figure them out. I know roughly what's going on, but I don't know the like specifics of what's happening in there, but we're going to try and figure them out because they are spectacular. So that right there is our first inversion, B flat major again. Okay, so I think there it's relatively straightforward. B flat major first inversion to F major first inversion to F minor first inversion. But there's definitely some more going on in there. Those are like the main ingredients of the chords, but there's a couple of little bits of seasoning thrown in there to make them a bit more interesting. I'm going to try and figure out what they are. So I don't think it's actually that complicated. That's what it is. There's an add 9 on that F. So instead of it just being an F major first inversion, it's an F major add 9 first inversion. And then I think we keep that add 9 for the F minor first inversion, just to give that real tense bit of tension right in the middle there. There's some kind of diminished thing going on there before we go to the next chord as well. So I think what we have is B flat major first inversion, F add 9 first inversion, F minor add 9 first inversion, and then like, what would you call it? An A flat diminished. And then this is the cool thing. That bass note sounds like it's wanting to move chromatically down. And I think it sticks there for a couple of chords before it then eventually does move down. Because essentially what we're doing is we're starting here, and then we go there, and then it's basically eventually falling down to this. But there's a bunch of other stuff in the middle going on there, and I want to figure out what that journey is. Oh God. That, I think, is straight up A flat major 7. And then I think we get a G7 like augmented with a sharp 5th. So and then I think it's something crazy like that. No, it's just an F, it's just another major 7. So yeah, I think that's it. G flat major 7 with an added 13 in there. And then it gets to like an F7 first inversion. And then it resolves to our B flat second inversion. My God, okay. Lots of inversions and second inversions and add this and that and that and that. Essentially, if you look at this from like 10,000 feet, right? If we look at the big picture, we're just chromatically moving down from our first chord. We're just falling all the way down to here, which is what the original does. The original is... So it's really similar in what it's doing. It's just... everything is kind of just... instead of it being that straightforward, it's just like the perspective of those chords and that sequence is just shifted a little bit. So instead of... and then up, and then landing, it's kind of never goes up. It just sort of starts to fall, and then it sits for a second, and then it carries on falling again. This is the way I kind of look at this stuff. It's very visual. I look at these chord sequences as like big visual movements of things. And I think a lot of the time it's very easy to get caught up in first inversion, add 9, diminished, augmented, whatever, and getting stuck in the weeds of like the specifics of the chords. But I don't think there's a lot of point in doing that unless you're able to take a step back and look at the whole thing as a big picture. And I think that's why I really love certain chord sequences, not because of all these weird little intricacies although they're the reason that they sound so great and I don't really know it, I'm just looking at the big picture and I'm like, there's something about this overall shape that really speaks to me on a deep, deep level. And then the fun thing is, okay, cool, I want to be able to play that. Let's figure out exactly what it is so I know exactly what those ingredients are to recreate that big shape. Does that make sense? I feel like that is me trying to explain my overall like philosophy on music and why I like it. I think that pretty much nails it. Anyway, before I forget these chords, let's get back to them and see if we can replay them and see if they sound anything right. So I'm going to play that little intro bit beforehand and then, yeah, try this crazy bit. That's a pretty freaking sweet chord sequence. And then that again, it's we're just hanging around the F. We're hanging around the dominant there. We're kind of doing the first inversion B flat, so it's technically our root, but because second inversion B flat major, and because it's the root, but because it's second inversion, we've got the F in the bass. That is clearly indicating to us that we are on the 5 and we're wanting to resolve back to the 1. An E flat major over F, which is our 4 chord over the 5, which is kind of cool. I think it kind of resolves to that. Something like that. Basically a big, long, drawn-out sequence of 5s wanting us to resolve to the 1, but it doesn't quite resolve to the 1. It goes back to that first inversion. So it never like fully lands on the 1 chord. It's always just up in the air. The whole thing just feels like it's just constantly just being lifted up as if it's floating on water. Now listen. Oh, that is, I don't know what that is yet. This is the beautiful little moment where I'm like, I haven't figured out exactly what the chords are yet, but I don't care what it is. That just set off something in my brain. That was stunning. Let's figure it out. I want to be able to play this. Okay, so that goes from our like... So there's we're in F major there. That's all it is. That's just the F major. We're not in F major, sorry. That is just F major, which we're thinking of as our 5 chord. And then instead of it being that da-da-dum, previously was F major or F7, and it was the 3rd on top, which is the A, which is what was like, that's what that note is in context of the chord. Now that A is the new root of A7. Which is our first like big change, big pivot away from B flat major. There's something else in there. There's one more note in there that's making that extra sexy, and I can't figure out what it is. Is it that? I think it is. It's an augmented type thing. I think that's it. It's close enough. Anyway, the next chord. Oh God, what is that? I don't know. I can't. My brain is stopped. Maybe it would help to figure out where it's going, and that might give us an indication. So basically what we're ending up is... We're now in D flat major. So we were in B flat major. We're now in D flat major, which is like the parallel major. Is that right? This is where like my music theory terms just start to go like slightly wrong. Maybe it is the parallel major, not relative major. Whatever. I don't care. This is the point. This is the point I was trying to make earlier. It doesn't matter about all these terms. It moves up a minor third. It goes from here to here. Now that's our new key center. That's what you need to worry about. So but anyway, that's where we're landing. We've got... Oh, that wasn't right. We went... So it could be that, which is just like the 5 chord of D flat, which is A flat 7. Or maybe it's that. I think it's that, you know. If it's not, I like that, so I'm just gonna say it's that. And now we're basically doing exactly the same thing, but in a new key. Lovely little piano solo going on here. Same chords in a different key. Oh, listen to that sax. Exact same sequence. There's one more cool little trick that this song has got ready to deploy, and it is a masterful one. Now listen to this. Ready? 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 Man, as if this track didn't get any better, it then does that right at the end. So this is really freaking cool, right? So we're in our new key, which is D flat major. We're doing this D flat first inversion up to G flat, the 1 to the 4 thing, which is exactly the same as we were doing in B flat earlier in a different key. So and then it changes to a D major first inversion. And that becomes our new 1 chord briefly, which goes to a G major, which is our new 4 chord. So it's exactly the same sequence, but in a different key, different perspective. This is now in the key of D major. Again, I say briefly because we do very quickly go back to B flat. But just the way that suddenly springs up out of nowhere, and it just the tension and like the sudden kind of like, whoa, hang on a second, there's like urgency in that. It's just so masterful. And then it just shifts back. We're now technically back in B flat major because this is the 2 chord of B flat major, which is C minor 7. And then it does the tritone substitution augmented 5th thing, that exactly the same thing at the very start. That chord that goes on forever. And then we resolve back into B flat major. We're back to the start. We've taken a whole massive crazy long journey and we're back at the start. What an absolute track. My God. I'm going to attempt to play the entire thing from start to finish with the backing. This has honestly been one of the most enjoyable tracks I've learned for a very, very long time. It's simple on the surface, but when you dig a bit deeper, there's some really crazy, weird stuff going on in there. But again, if you look at that big picture view, it's really straightforward. We have a sequence that basically repeats itself in a different key. It then borrows a tiny little snippet of that sequence in a different key again, to pivot us back to our original key again. And if you don't think about it too much, and if you just listen to it on first pass, it's like, wow, it's doing some crazy stuff and it's twisting and turning all over the place. But as with a lot of these things, it's never really as complicated as you think it's going to be. Once you start digging and getting into the weeds and figuring out exactly what notes are being played, you start to pick out little patterns and you realize, oh, okay, it's not just like this long, sprawling, crazy, improvised thing. There is structure to it. But I think the best things, the most stunning, beautiful things come from where structured, straightforward things, that is being disguised by something that just sounds beautiful. It makes you think that it's this big, evolving kind of like improvised thing. I think that's truly one of my favorite things to listen to when I'm discovering new music like this. Anyway, without further ado, we're going to try and play the entire thing. This has been great fun. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully this is now going to be an uninterrupted playthrough right to the end of the video. If you enjoyed what you watched, I appreciate that. Thank you for watching this far into the video. Please do consider subscribing if you would like more of this kind of content. I'm enjoying this breakdown style of video a lot, so I'm going to keep on doing it. But yeah, until next time, enjoy this one final playthrough, and yeah, subscribe, like the video.